In the vast tapestry of history, the lives of ordinary medieval people often remain concealed, overshadowed by the grandeur of castles and the intrigues of royal courts. Yet, these common folk formed the backbone of medieval society. Their daily lives a continuous thread weaving through the centuries. They were the peasants, laborers, craftspeople, and smallholders who toiled quietly, their stories largely unrecorded and their names mostly forgotten. But in their simplicity and routine, there lies a profound narrative worth exploring. As we embark on this journey into the past, let us put aside visions of grand battles and royal decrees. Instead, we shall walk the trodden paths of village lanes, feel the earth underfoot of a ploughed field, and hear the gentle murmur of a hearthside conversation. Our focus will be on the rhythm of daily life, the cycle of seasons, and the quiet dignity of labor and community. Medieval life for the common person was ordinary, yet it was this ordinariness that shaped the world in subtle, enduring ways. Each day flowed into the next, marked by duties and obligations, by joys and sorrows, yet always underpinned by a deep connection to the land and to each other. It is a life that is largely invisible in the grand narratives of history, but one that holds a mirror to our own existence, reflecting the universal human experience of finding meaning in the everyday. This exploration is not just an exercise in historical curiosity. It is an invitation to reflect on the nature of our own lives, on the routines that shape our days, and the unnoticed threads that bind us to those who have come before. In understanding the past, we may find echoes of our own stories, discovering that while times have changed, the essence of daily life remains remarkably familiar. As we move forward, we invite you to share with us the time and place from which you listen. Let this be a shared experience, connecting us across time and space. And if you find value in this journey, consider subscribing to The Wandering Mind, where we delve into the quiet mysteries of life with the same thoughtful curiosity. Let us now step back into a world where the lives of the many were lived in the shadows of history, yet were no less significant for their simplicity. In the vast tapestry of medieval Britain, the thread of the common person wove itself through the fabric of daily life, often unnoticed by the chroniclers of history. These were the individuals who did not sit upon thrones or command armies. Instead, they were the humble architects of the ordinary, the steadfast custodians of the mundane, and yet they were the backbone of society. The term common in medieval times encompassed a range of roles and responsibilities, each vital in sustaining the community's life and rhythm. Let us first consider the peasants, who formed the largest segment of this group. A peasant's life was rooted in the soil, both literally and figuratively. They were tied to the land, often working on fields owned by local lords or the church, which were the main landholders of the time. These peasants, sometimes referred to as serfs, were bound by a feudal contract that obligated them to work the land in exchange for protection and a small plot to cultivate for themselves. Peasants' lives revolved around agricultural cycles, and their labors were dictated by the seasons. They were the sowers and reapers of crops, the tenders of livestock, and the custodians of the earth's bounty. Their days began with the first light of dawn, and often continued until dusk, a pattern of life that left little room for leisure. Yet, within this routine, there existed a profound connection to the natural world, a rhythm dictated by the rising and setting of the sun the changing of the seasons. In close quarters with the peasants stood the laborers, who might not have been bound to the land in the same way, but still found their livelihoods entwined with the demands of physical toil. These individuals often hired themselves out for a variety of tasks, from helping with the harvest to working in the burgeoning industries that dotted the medieval landscape, such as milling, brewing, or textiles. Craftspeople occupied a distinct niche within the common populace, their hands skilled in transforming raw materials into goods of utility and beauty. Blacksmiths, carpenters, weavers, and potters. These were the tradespeople whose craftsmanship supported the daily needs of their communities. Unlike peasants tied to the rhythms of agriculture, craftspeople operated within a different cadence, one marked by the demands of trade and the cycles of production. These artisans often worked within guilds, which were organizations that provided training, regulated standards of workmanship, and protected the economic interests of their members. Guilds were an early form of professional association, ensuring that skills were passed down through generations and that the integrity of the craft was maintained. Lastly, we come to the smallholders, individuals who managed to eke out an existence on modest plots of land. These smallholders, though few in number compared to the peasantry, represented a degree of independence within the feudal system. They owned or leased their lands, affording them a level of autonomy that serfs did not enjoy. This independence, however, came with its own set of challenges, as smallholders had to balance self-sufficiency with the demands of feudal obligations and taxes. To understand the lives of these common folk, one must also consider the social hierarchy within which they existed. Medieval society was structured in a rigid hierarchy that placed the nobility and clergy at the top, with the commoners positioned below. Yet within this stratification, the distinctions between different types of commoners were not always clear-cut. Social mobility was limited, but not entirely impossible. A peasant might become a smallholder, or a laborer could learn a craft and enter the ranks of artisans. The hierarchy, though seemingly rigid, was a framework that provided stability and order in a world where survival was often precarious. It was not a system designed to stifle, but rather to organize society in a manner that reflected the resources and responsibilities of each group. This hierarchy was maintained through unwritten customs and the enforcement of local lords, who held sway over their domains. It is important to approach this social structure without judgment, for it was neither inherently good nor bad. Rather, it was a product of its time, an adaptation to the complexities of medieval life. The roles of peasants, laborers, craftspeople, and smallholders were not merely labels, but identities shaped by necessity and tradition. In reflecting upon the lives of these common individuals, we must acknowledge the depth of their contributions to medieval society. They were the builders of communities, the keepers of craftsmanship, and the stewards of the land. Their lives, though often unrecorded, were filled with a quiet dignity and a resilience that carried them through the challenges of their time. As we continue our exploration of medieval life, it is these common people who shall remain at the heart of our narrative, their stories woven into the broader tapestry of history, offering us a glimpse into a world where the ordinary was indeed extraordinary. In the heart of medieval Britain, amidst the rolling hills and patchwork fields, the homes of the common folk stood as humble testaments to a life anchored firmly in the earth. These dwellings, often clustered together in villages, were built from the very materials found within arm's reach, embodying a simplicity born of necessity and tradition. Imagine a typical home, its walls constructed from wattle and daub, an ancient technique as old as time itself. The frame was made from interwoven wooden strips known as wattle, which were then covered with a sticky mixture of mud, straw, and animal dung, forming the daub. This method not only made use of the plentiful resources, but also provided surprisingly effective insulation against the chill of the British climate. The result was a structure that, although modest, was both warm and sturdy, a refuge against the elements. Above, the roof was thatched with reeds or straw, materials that were readily available and easy to replace. Thatching was an art form, passed down through generations, with the thatcher's skill evident in the neat, layered appearance of the roof, which sloped gently to allow rainwater to run off with ease. This thatched canopy offered protection from the rain and a buffer against the wind, although it did little to prevent the occasional rodent from finding its way into the attic spaces. The interior of these homes was often a single room, or, at most, divided into two spaces by a simple partition. Here, the family would eat, sleep, and work, their lives intertwined in a dance of daily chores and communal activities. The concept of privacy, as we understand it today, was largely absent. Instead, life was a shared experience, with each member of the household contributing to the well-being of the whole. Within the home, the hearth was the heart of life, a place where meals were prepared and warmth was found. In the absence of a chimney, smoke would escape through a simple hole in the roof, or sometimes not at all, lingering near the ceiling in a thick haze. This smoky environment was simply a part of life, tolerated rather than lamented, and families would gather around the flickering flames, their faces aglow with firelight as they shared stories and companionship. The floor was often made of packed earth, sometimes covered with rushes or straw, to provide a modicum of comfort and cleanliness. These rushes would be changed periodically, though not as often as one might hope, leaving the remnants of meals and the occasional errant insect to accumulate beneath. Despite these conditions, the home was not considered unclean by the standards of the time, but rather a living space imbued with the rhythms and textures of everyday life. In the corners of the room, simple furnishings stood, a wooden table perhaps, and a few stools or benches, crafted by hand from the wood of nearby forests. Beds, if they could be called that, were little more than straw mattresses laid upon the ground or on simple wooden frames, covered with rough woolen blankets to ward off the night's chill. Here, the family would sleep side by side, the closeness of their bodies offering warmth and comfort in the darkness. Animals, too, were part of this domestic scene. Chickens might wander in and out during the day, pecking at scraps left on the floor, while a pig or cow might be housed in an adjoining shed, its presence a vital part of the household economy. These animals were more than mere livestock. They were companions and contributors, integral to the sustenance and survival of the family. Outside, the village was a tapestry of similar homes, each one a microcosm of the lives within. Paths of trodden earth wound between them, leading to communal fields, the village well, and the church, the focal point of spiritual and social life. The village was a hub of interaction, where news was exchanged and bonds were forged, where life was lived in unison with neighbors and kin. In these homes, history was not written in books, but lived in the quiet, repetitive patterns of daily existence. The walls of wattle and daub held stories untold of generations who came and went, leaving behind little more than the structures they built and the fields they tended. These were places where life's great dramas played out, not in grand gestures or epic tales, but in the simple, enduring acts of living. As we picture these medieval homes, we are reminded of the resilience and resourcefulness of the people who inhabited them. Their lives, invisible to the grand narratives of history, were nonetheless rich with the textures of a world both familiar and distant. Through these dwellings, we glimpse not just the physical environment, but the very essence of a time when life was woven from the fibers of necessity and community. In the gentle embrace of a medieval morning, the world awakens not to the shrill insistence of alarms, but to the softening darkness of night, yielding to first light. This is a time when the concept of time itself is felt rather than measured, a fluid notion woven into the very fabric of daily existence. The coming of dawn is not merely an event, but a gentle call to action, a natural cue for life to begin anew. The medieval peasant or laborer might feel the first stirrings of the day as the sky begins its slow transformation from the deep indigo of night to the tender hues of early dawn. This transition is gradual and unhurried, marked by the soft glow that spreads across the landscape, illuminating the fields and pathways that connect the scattered homes of the village. It is a moment of quiet anticipation, where the promise of daylight begins to rouse the people from their slumber. Unlike the regimented precision of modern clocks, the medieval day is orchestrated by the sun. As the light intensifies, so too does activity within the household. The family stirs, emerging from beneath woolen blankets, the chill of morning air, a familiar companion. The absence of artificial light means that the waking process is one with nature, a gradual emergence from sleep that mirrors the unhurried ascent of the sun above the horizon. In this world, the seasons play a significant role in determining the rhythm of life. In the depths of winter, the mornings are slow to arrive, the sun lingering beneath the horizon while the earth remains in shadow. Conversely, the long days of summer beckon with the early arrival of dawn, urging the inhabitants to begin their labors under the warm embrace of extended daylight. The ebb and flow of light throughout the year is a reminder of the cyclical nature of time, a gentle guide that shapes the daily routine. The absence of mechanical timekeepers means that people rely on a more instinctual sense of time. The position of the sun, the lengthening shadows, and the familiar sounds of nature serve as the only markers of the hour. The crowing of the cockerel, a ubiquitous presence in many households, serves as a reliable herald of the new day. This natural alarm, though not always precise, is a welcome sound that echoes through the stillness, pulling the inhabitants from their dreams. As the household comes to life, each member becomes attuned to the subtle cues that signal the start of their duties. The tasks of the day, whether they be in the fields, the workshop, or the home, are governed by the light. The rising sun bestows energy and purpose, its presence a reminder of the work that awaits. It is a time of quiet preparation, of gathering tools and supplies, of ensuring that all is in readiness for the day ahead. This natural rhythm, dictated by sunrise and sunset, fosters a deep connection with the environment. The boundaries between day and night are clearly delineated, with each bringing its own set of activities and responsibilities. The early hours are a time of potential, a blank canvas upon which the events of the day will be painted. It is a period of awakening, not just in a physical sense, but in the promise of what is to come. For those who work the land, the morning light is a signal to begin the day's toil. The fields, shrouded in dew, glisten under the nascent sun, beckoning the laborers to their tasks. The plowman readies his team, the shepherd gathers his flock, and the farmer surveys his crops, each action performed in harmony with the natural world. The sun, a constant presence, offers both guidance and sustenance, its warmth a balm that eases the rigors of physical labor. In the village, the awakening of the day is mirrored in the quiet bustle of domestic life. The hearth is rekindled, its flames coaxed into life to prepare the morning meal. The simple act of breaking fast is a communal affair, a moment of shared purpose that strengthens the bonds of family and community. The aroma of baking bread and simmering porridge fills the air, a tangible reminder of sustenance and survival. The pace of the morning is unhurried yet purposeful, a measured cadence that allows for reflection and preparation without the urgency that often accompanies modern life. The lack of clocks or watches means that time is experienced as a sequence of events rather than a series of dictated moments. This fluid perception allows for a more intuitive connection with the world, where the passage of time is felt as a natural progression. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the morning gives way to the full light of day. The initial stirrings of activity evolve into the steady hum of work, each task performed with the quiet assurance of repetition. The morning, though fleeting, sets the tone for the hours that follow, a time of renewal and possibility, where the light of the sun is both a guide and a companion. In this medieval landscape, mornings are not merely the start of a new day, but a reminder of the enduring relationship between humanity and nature. As we awaken with the light, we are drawn into the ancient rhythm of life, a dance as old as time itself. In the soft light of dawn, where the morning mist still clung to the fields, the day began not just with the labor of hands, but with the simple rituals of washing and dressing. Our modern conveniences of hot showers and electric lights were unknown, yet the people of medieval Britain were not neglectful of personal care. They approached these daily routines with a practicality that balanced necessity and modesty. Clothing in the medieval world was a testament to resourcefulness and skill. The garments worn by the common folk were more than mere coverings. They were crafted from materials that spoke of the land and the seasons. Wool was the most prevalent fabric, its warmth and availability making it a staple in every wardrobe. Sheared from sheep, spun into yarn, and woven into cloth, wool was both durable and insulating. As the nights grew chillier, layers of woolen clothing provided comfort against the biting cold. Linen, derived from flax plants, was another essential material prized for its breathability. Although more labor-intensive to produce, linen offered a cool respite during warmer months and served as the fabric for undergarments. The process of turning flax into linen required soaking, beating, and spinning, reflecting a deep understanding of natural fibers and the patience to transform them into something wearable. The clothing worn by medieval commoners was typically simple in design. Tunics and kirtles were common for both men and women, practical and unfettered by the elaborate styles reserved for the aristocracy. Colors were muted, often dictated by the natural dyes available, such as woad for blues and madder for reds. These garments, though plain, were stitched with care, each seam a testament to the hands that crafted them. As they dressed, medieval people might reflect on the labor embedded in their clothing, from the shearing of sheep to the spinning of wool. Each piece was valuable, often mended and passed down through generations, its threads weaving stories of past wearers. Hygiene, contrary to popular belief, was not entirely neglected. Medieval people understood the importance of cleanliness, even if their methods differed from our own. Bathing was less frequent, certainly, constrained by the effort required to draw and heat water. However, washing was not uncommon. Rivers, streams, and communal bathhouses provided opportunities for more thorough cleansing, though these were luxuries for many. For daily routines, washing involved water drawn from wells or streams used sparingly. Faces and hands were cleansed regularly, with a focus on visible areas and those most exposed to dirt. This was both a matter of personal comfort and social expectation. Soap, made from animal fats and wood ash, was available but not always used daily. Its harshness was balanced by its effectiveness in removing grime. Hair, too, received attention. Combing was a regular practice, not only for grooming but to prevent lice, a common nuisance. Combs were crafted from wood or bone, their teeth fine enough to detangle and maintain hair. The use of oils and herbs, such as rosemary or lavender, added fragrance and helped manage unruly locks. Teeth, often overlooked in historical records, were cared for with surprisingly effective methods. Twigs from medicinal plants served as rudimentary toothbrushes, while crushed herbs acted as primitive tooth powders. These practices reflected a pragmatic approach to oral hygiene, aligned with the resources available. The medieval sense of hygiene was deeply connected to the rhythms of their environment. Rainwater was collected and valued for its softness, considered superior for washing. In this way, the act of cleansing was in harmony with the natural world, a reflection of the medieval mindset that saw humanity as part of a greater ecological tapestry. While bathing facilities might have been limited, the sentiment of cleanliness extended beyond the physical. There was an understanding that outward appearance mirrored inner virtue. In a world where community standing mattered, presenting oneself well was as much about social currency as it was about personal comfort. As the day unfolded, these small acts of personal care set the tone. They were moments of quiet reflection, an opportunity to prepare both body and mind for the tasks ahead. Although the medieval understanding of hygiene was shaped by different circumstances, the desire to maintain cleanliness and dignity transcended time, echoing our own routines in ways more similar than we might first imagine. In considering these daily rituals, we find a connection to the past that is both intimate and instructive. It is a reminder that even in an era without modern luxuries, people found ways to care for themselves and their appearance, weaving a fabric of routine that, although worn by time, remains recognizable to us. In the fabric of daily medieval life, food wove a thread both vital and humble, shaping the rhythm of days and the health of bodies. It was an era when the landscape dictated the diet and the seasons themselves became the culinary calendar. The common person's diet was simple, yet its simplicity belied a quiet resilience and ingenuity in the face of nature's caprice. At the heart of the medieval meal was bread, an unassuming staple, yet the cornerstone of sustenance. Bread was not merely a side dish, but often the main course, its quality and type as varied as the regions and seasons of Britain. For many, bread was brown and coarse, made from barley or rye, as wheat was a luxury not always within reach. In years when the harvest was plentiful, the quality of bread improved. In leaner times, it might be stretched with beans, peas, or even acorns, ground and mixed into the dough to make the grain last longer. The transformation of flour into bread was a communal effort, grinding the grain at the local mill, kneading the dough, and baking in shared village ovens. Each loaf bore the mark of its maker, both in skill and circumstance. Complementing the bread was pottage, a versatile and enduring stew that simmered slowly over hearth fires. Made from available vegetables, grains, and sometimes a sprinkling of herbs, pottage was the embodiment of a medieval cook's resourcefulness. It could be thick or thin, rich or meager, depending on what the garden, forest, or fields could provide. In the height of summer, when gardens brimmed with produce, pottage might be vibrant with a medley of greens, cabbage, leeks, and onions. In the depths of winter, it might be pared back to root vegetables and dried legumes, seasoned with the remnants of last season's herbs. Meat was a rare addition, reserved for special occasions or the fortunate few who could afford it more regularly. When included, it was often in the form of salted pork or bacon, lending its savory richness to the pot. Seasonality was a concept deeply embedded in the medieval diet, not by choice but by necessity. The changing seasons dictated what was available and when. The earth's bounty was respected and preserved with care. Spring brought the promise of fresh greens and wild herbs, a welcome relief after the sparse offerings of winter. Summer was a time of abundance, with gardens yielding peas, beans, and fruit, each meal a celebration of color and flavor. Autumn's harvest was critical, a time to gather and store, to pickle and preserve, ensuring that the larder was stocked for the cold months ahead. Winter meals were more austere, relying on preserved foods, dried legumes, and the occasional smoked or salted meat. The rhythm of planting, harvesting, and preserving was a dance with nature, one that required skill, planning, and a touch of luck. Fish, too, played a role in the medieval diet, particularly for those living near rivers, lakes, or the sea. It was a source of protein on days when religious observance forbade the consumption of meat. Freshwater fish like pike and eel, and saltwater varieties such as herring, were common catches. Fish was often smoked, dried, or pickled to preserve it for times when fresh catches were not possible. The Church's influence was keenly felt in dietary habits, with fish days interspersed throughout the week, shaping menus and traditions. Hunger was a companion that lingered on the periphery of medieval life, a distant specter rather than a constant shadow. The specter of famine, while not omnipresent, was a reality that shaped attitudes towards food and feasting. Crop failures, poor weather, or political turmoil could tip the balance precariously, leading to shortages and hardship. Yet, the resilience of the common people shone through in their ability to adapt and make do, ensuring that, while meals might be modest, they were seldom entirely absent. The community itself often provided a buffer against the worst privations, with neighbors sharing what little they had in times of need. In this context, The communal nature of food preparation and consumption was not merely a necessity, but a binding force within villages. Meals were shared, recipes passed down through generations, and food became a focal point for gathering and connection. Festivals and holy days punctuated the year, offering moments of respite where the usual fare might be embellished with a treat, a loaf of finer bread, a slice of cheese, or a taste of honeyed sweetness. To modern eyes, the medieval diet might appear austere, yet it was rich in nutrients and fibers, supported by physical labor that shaped strong, resilient bodies. It was a diet dictated by the land, crafted by hands attuned to the cycles of growth and harvest, and consumed in a spirit of shared experience. Through bread and pottage, vegetables and fish, the common people of medieval Britain nourished not only their bodies, but their communities, finding sustenance and solace in the everyday miracle of the meal. The sun rises gently over the horizon, casting its golden light across the fields, a silent signal for the beginning of yet another day. In medieval Britain, the landscape is a patchwork of green and brown, a testament to the lifelong dance between man and the earth. For the common folk, life unfolds in a pattern as predictable and steady as the cycles of nature itself. Work, far from being a mere necessity, shapes the very fabric of existence, its rhythm echoed in the daily routines that define each passing season. Farming, the cornerstone of medieval life, demands a deep respect for nature's whims. As the sun stretches higher, villagers take to the fields, their tools in hand, ready to tend to their crops. The act of farming is not just about producing food, it is a profound engagement with the land. The soil, turned by simple wooden plows, holds the promise of sustenance. Seeds, sown with care, are a hopeful investment in the future, relying on the grace of weather to flourish. This is work that ties one to the earth, a relationship as intimate as it is demanding. The labor is repetitive, yet there is comfort in its predictability. Each task, whether it be planting, weeding, or harvesting, follows a seasonally dictated script. The planting of seeds in the spring, the nurturing of crops through summer, the harvest in autumn, and the preparation for the next cycle in winter form a seamless continuum. This rhythm provides a sense of security in a world otherwise fraught with uncertainty. It is a reminder of humanity's ability to adapt and thrive within nature's constraints. Yet, farming is not the sole occupation of the medieval commoner. The village hums with a variety of activities, each contributing to the community's survival and prosperity. Craftspeople, with their skilled hands, transform raw materials into useful objects. The blacksmith's forge is a focal point, its rhythmic clangs punctuating the day. Here, iron is coaxed into tools and weaponry, its transformation a testament to human ingenuity. The weaver, with deft fingers, turns wool into fabric, a dance of threads that embodies patience and precision. Domestic tasks, often overlooked, are equally vital. The preparation of meals, the mending of clothing, the maintenance of the home, each demands attention and care. These tasks, largely the domain of women, are woven seamlessly into the daily rhythm, their importance no less than the more visible labors of the field or forge. The home is a hub of activity, its hearth a source of warmth and sustenance. The day's work is a collective effort, a tapestry of individual contributions that sustain the whole. It is a dance of cooperation, where each member of the community plays a part. The shared labor fosters a sense of belonging, a reminder that survival is a communal endeavor. Tasks are often performed in groups, their completion marked by a shared sense of satisfaction. Labor in this world is a social affair, binding people together through shared purpose and mutual reliance. Work parties, where neighbors gather to complete tasks like thatching a roof or plowing a particularly stubborn field, are common. These gatherings are as much about reinforcing social bonds as they are about getting the job done. The exchange of stories, the sharing of laughter, and the simple pleasure of companionship render the toil lighter and the day shorter. The nature of work is dictated by necessity, yet it is far from oppressive. It is the backdrop to life, a constant presence that shapes the day's structure. There is a rhythm to be found in the repetition, a meditative quality to the tasks that allows the mind to wander even while the hands are busy. This is not a life of leisure, but neither is it one of unremitting drudgery. Rather, it is an existence marked by balance, where labor and rest are two sides of the same coin. As the sun dips below the horizon, the day's work draws to a close. Tools are set aside, hands are washed of the day's toil, and the community gathers to share the evening meal. There is a quiet satisfaction in the completion of a day's labor, a sense of fulfillment that comes from having contributed to the well-being of the community. The rhythm of work, like the steady beat of a drum, continues to pulse beneath the surface, its tempo guiding the flow of life. Through this lens, we see that work is not merely a means to an end, but rather an integral part of the human experience. It is a source of identity and purpose, a thread that weaves individuals into the larger tapestry of the community. In the repetitive patterns of daily labor, there is a profound sense of connection to the land, to each other, and to the cycles of time that govern all life. This is the shape of life for the medieval commoner, a dance of work and rest that echoes through the ages. In the rolling tapestry of the medieval British countryside, time unfolded not in frantic bursts or unending lines, but rather in a gentle, predictable cycle. It was a rhythm set by nature herself, a cadence marked by the whisper of winds through barley fields and the slow march of seasons. The agricultural year was a living calendar, one that did not hang upon a wall but lay beneath the feet, in the soil, in the very air. The life of a common person was intricately woven with this natural rhythm, a pattern of life that was both demanding and rewarding. Plowing, planting, and harvesting were not merely tasks to be completed. They were the beats to which life itself danced. Each season brought its own distinct flavor and set of responsibilities, a symphony that required both individual effort and collective harmony to play out successfully. As winter receded and the land began to stir from its chilled slumber, the first act of the agricultural year commenced with the plowing of fields. The plow, a simple yet ingenious tool, was the key to unlocking the Earth's potential. Its design had evolved over centuries, reflecting the quiet genius of countless hands and minds. With the thawing of the frosty ground, villagers took to the fields, guiding the plows pulled by sturdy oxen or horses, their movements slow and deliberate. Furrows were carved carefully into the earth, lines of promise ready to cradle the seeds of new life. This was not a task for the solitary soul. The land demanded a communal effort, a shared investment in the future. Families worked side by side, neighbors lending hands and strength where needed. The air was filled with the sounds of labor, the creak of wooden wheels, the steady clink of metal against stone, and the rhythmic calls of farmers urging their beasts forward. In these moments, the fields became not merely places of work, but spaces of connection, where bonds were strengthened through shared toil. With the plowing complete, attention turned to planting. Seeds, small and seemingly insignificant, were scattered with care and hope. Each seed was a whisper of potential, a promise that the earth would nurture and sustain life once more. The planting season required patience and a deep understanding of the land, a knowledge passed down through generations. What to plant and when, how to read the signs of the weather, and how to coax the best from the soil. These were secrets shared in quiet conversations and learned through years of observation. The community moved as one, each person contributing to the collective effort. Men, women, and children all had roles to play, their hands working in concert to transform promise into reality. As seeds settled into their earthy beds, villagers would pause to reflect on the task at hand, understanding that their efforts, though small individually, were crucial cogs in the grand machinery of life. As spring matured into the warmth of summer, the landscape transformed. Fields once bare now burgeoned with life, a green expanse that stretched towards the horizon. This was a time of anticipation, when the fruits of labor began to materialize. The plants grew under the watchful eyes of the farmers, their progress measured not by clocks, but by the steady march of the sun across the sky. Yet summer was not merely a time of waiting. Vigilance was required to protect the burgeoning crops from the whims of nature. Weeds needed to be kept at bay, thirsty plants required water, and the ever-present threat of pests demanded attention. Each day brought new challenges to be met with resilience and determination. The community continued to work together, bound by a common purpose and a shared reliance on the land. As the days began to shorten and the air took on a crisp edge, the time of harvest arrived. This was the climax of the agricultural year, a moment of both celebration and hard work. The fields, now heavy with grain, called for the hands of every able-bodied person. Harvesting was a time-sensitive task, a race against the clock and weather to gather the bounty before it was lost to the elements. Scythes swung in unison, cutting swathes through the golden fields. The grain was collected and bundled, each sheaf a testament to the months of labor and care. There was a palpable sense of urgency in the air, a collective understanding that the harvest was the culmination of the year's efforts. The work was physically demanding, yet it was undertaken with a spirit of camaraderie and shared joy. Songs often floated above the fields, voices raised in harmony to lighten the load and quicken the pace. The harvest was not merely an end, but a beginning. With the crops safely stored, thoughts turned to the seasons ahead, to the planning and preparation that would start the cycle anew. The community gathered to celebrate their achievements, to share in the fruits of their labor, and to give thanks to the land that had once again provided for them. Through plowing, planting, and harvesting, medieval life was defined by its connection to the earth, its rhythms dictated by the natural world. Survival was a collective endeavor, a dance of cooperation and interdependence. The agricultural year, with its cycles of growth and renewal, was more than a series of tasks. It was the heartbeat of a society, the pulse that sustained life in an age where every day was a testament to the enduring relationship between humankind and the land. In this harmonious cycle, medieval people found not just sustenance, but a deep-rooted sense of belonging, a connection to the world around them that was as enduring as the seasons themselves. The agricultural year was a timeless dance, a reminder that life, in all its complexity and simplicity, was intricately bound to the rhythms of the earth. In the gentle cadence of medieval daily life, tools were not merely objects of utility, they were extensions of the human hand, crafted with care and wielded with a quiet confidence that belied their simplicity. To the untrained eye, these implements might appear rudimentary, but within their simplicity lay an intricate tapestry of skill and tradition passed down through generations. Consider the humble plough, a seemingly straightforward contraption of wood and iron. For the medieval farmer, it was nothing short of essential. The ploughshare, cutting through the earth with a steady, rhythmic precision, was guided by hands that understood the land as intimately as one might know the lines of their own palm. Each field represented a unique challenge, its soil texture, slope, and moisture demanding subtle adjustments from the ploughman. This was an art, one learned not from books but through seasons of trial and observation. In the medieval workshop, the blacksmith was a figure of quiet authority. His forge was a place where raw metal met fire and transformed under his skilled gaze. A blacksmith's tools, tongs, hammers, anvils, were as familiar as an old friend. The rhythmic clanging of hammer on anvil was a symphony of creation, each strike purposeful, each spark a testament to the transformative power of heat and toil. Crafting a horseshoe or a nail required not just strength, but a deft touch and a keen eye, for the integrity of these small items could determine the safety and success of journeys and constructions alike. The carpenter, too, wielded tools of simplicity and precision. An adze, a plane, a saw. These were his allies in shaping wood into the fabric of daily life. From building sturdy chairs to crafting the frames of modest homes, the carpenter's expertise was evident in every joint and beam. Understanding the grain of the wood, knowing how to cut along it to enhance strength and beauty, was knowledge earned through years of practice. Each piece of timber spoke a language of growth and age, and the carpenter listened with skilled patience. Even in the realm of textiles, the spindle and loom were instruments of remarkable complexity. The weaver, often a woman working in the dim light of her home, spun thread with a dexterity that turned raw fiber into cloth. The rhythmic motion of the loom was a dance of threads crossing and interlocking, creating patterns that were both functional and beautiful. This craft required patience and a deep understanding of tension and texture, skills honed over countless hours. In the fields, the scythe was another tool of quiet expertise. Its curved blade, sharp and ready, was guided through the tall grass and grain with a sweeping motion that was both graceful and efficient. The scythe's song, a whispering swish through the stalks, was a sound of summer's labor. To wield it effectively demanded a precise balance of strength and finesse, a knowledge of angle and rhythm that came only with practice. The medieval fisherman's boat was a modest craft, but his nets and lines spoke of a subtle understanding of the aquatic world. Fishing in rivers, lakes, or the sea required not only the right equipment, but also an intimate knowledge of the habits of fish. the tides, and the weather. A successful catch wasn't guaranteed by luck, but by a deep, intuitive expertise that had been refined through years of experience and observation. In the quieter corners of the village, the potter's wheel spun in a slow, deliberate circle. Clay, soft and yielding, transformed under the potter's hands into vessels both utilitarian and artistic. This was a craft that required a delicate touch and an understanding of form and function. The potter's kiln, too, was a place of transformation where careful control of temperature turned fragile clay into resilient pottery. What all these crafts and tools shared was a reliance on the human senses: sight, touch, sound, and a deep-rooted wisdom that understood the limitations and possibilities of one's surroundings. This was not incompetence, but an expertise that embraced the natural world, finding ways to thrive within its constraints. In a world without modern conveniences, medieval people relied on their skills and knowledge to make life not just bearable, but rich in its own right. There was a satisfaction in mastering a craft, a quiet pride in producing something tangible and necessary. Each tool held a story, each task a lesson, and through their repeated use, ordinary people demonstrated a profound competence that sustained their communities. We might do well to reflect on the quiet expertise of medieval life, recognizing that beneath the veneer of simplicity lay a deep well of knowledge and skill. It reminds us that expertise is not always loud or self-promoting. Often, it is found in the gentle, unassuming rhythms of everyday life, where hands and minds work in harmony with the tools they wield. In the heart of every medieval village lay a tapestry of lives woven together by necessity and custom. The rhythms of daily existence were not solo performances, but rather a symphony of shared endeavor. Each note, each thread, represented a person whose life was interlaced with the lives of others in a network of mutual dependence. This was a time when the individual was part of a collective, where the success of one often hinged on the efforts of all. Village life was structured around the knowledge that many hands made light work. The workday typically began with the first light of dawn, as people emerged from their homes, the cool morning air filled with a sense of purpose and shared commitment. Fields needed tending, animals required care, and structures needed maintenance. Few tasks were solitary. Most required the collaboration of neighbors and kin. Imagine, if you will, the scene: a group of men and women, young and old, scattered across an open field, armed with simple tools, their voices a gentle hum against the backdrop of nature. The task might be tilling the earth in preparation for planting or bringing in the harvest when the crops were ready. Each person had a role to play, and their efforts were part of a larger communal goal, ensuring that the village had enough food to sustain them through the seasons. This shared labor was not merely about survival, though it was certainly crucial for that. It was also a social glue, binding individuals into a community that extended beyond mere proximity. The act of working together fostered a sense of belonging and strengthened the ties between families. Labor became a language of its own, a means through which relationships were built and maintained. Workdays were often punctuated by moments of lightness and camaraderie. A shared joke, a song passed down through generations, or the simple camaraderie of shared toil. These moments were the bright threads that added color to the fabric of daily life. Despite the physical demands, there was solace in knowing that one was not alone, that others were there to share the burden and celebrate the successes. Village life was also defined by a network of informal obligations, understood and upheld by all. These were not written laws, but customs and norms that guided behavior and ensured the smooth functioning of the community. If one family fell upon hard times, perhaps due to a poor harvest or an illness, others would step in to provide support, knowing that the favor would be returned if needed. This mutual reliance extended beyond the immediate needs of food and shelter. It encompassed the sharing of skills and knowledge, passed from one generation to the next. Craftsmanship, agriculture, and domestic skills were taught through observation and participation, ensuring that each person could contribute to the community's well-being. The village was a living school, where learning was woven into the fabric of everyday life. It is tempting to view these communities through rose-tinted glasses, to romanticize the simplicity and togetherness of medieval village life. However, it is important to acknowledge that this closeness was born of necessity, not choice. The demands of survival in a world with limited resources and technology required cooperation. Disagreements and disputes were inevitable, often resolved through the same informal networks that bound the community together. Yet, the overarching need to work together towards common goals usually prevailed. In this context, the village was more than just a collection of individuals. It was an organism in which each part was vital to the whole. The success and well-being of the community were intrinsically linked to the contributions of each member. This understanding of mutual dependence was a cornerstone of medieval life, a quiet testament to the strength found in unity. As the day's work came to a close, villagers would gather, exchanging stories and laughter, reinforcing bonds that had been tempered by the heat of the day. Around hearths and under the open sky, the echoes of shared labor were replaced by the warmth of shared companionship. This was a world where community was not a choice but a way of life, where each person was a thread in a tapestry that stretched back into the past and forward into the future, weaving together the ordinary and the extraordinary into a single enduring narrative. In medieval Britain, religion was not merely a belief system, it was the very fabric of daily life, intricately woven into the rhythms that governed each day. The church, with its towering presence, both physical and spiritual, stood as the cornerstone of community life, a constant reminder of the divine amidst the earthly toil. It was here that the ordinary person found a sense of order, a comforting regularity in an otherwise unpredictable world. Church attendance was not merely a weekly obligation, but a social and spiritual anchor. Sundays were marked by the communal gathering for Mass, a ritual that punctuated the week with a moment of collective reflection and worship. The church bells, their sound carrying across fields and villages, called the faithful to prayer, marking time in a world without clocks. These bells were more than mere signals. They were the heartbeat of the community, resonating with a steady assurance. The liturgical calendar, with its cycle of saints' days and holy feasts, provided a framework that shaped the year. Each saint's day offered a pause, a diversion from the routine, and a chance to celebrate or reflect. These occasions often brought respite from labor, allowing for festivities that were as much about social cohesion as they were about religious observance. The stories of the saints, with their exemplary lives and miraculous deeds, offered moral guidance and a sense of connection to a larger spiritual narrative. In this world, faith was less about individual conviction and more about shared practice. Theological debates and personal interpretations were the domain of the clergy and scholars, far removed from the concerns of the common folk. For most, religion was a lived experience, a series of actions and observances that affirmed their place in the world. Church services, prayers, and rituals were as routine as the rising and setting of the sun, their repetition providing a comforting familiarity. The Church also played a crucial role in education and the transmission of knowledge. Many people, unable to read or write, relied on the clergy to interpret and impart religious teachings. The stained glass windows and wall paintings of the churches served as visual sermons, depicting biblical stories and saintly lives for all to see. In these images, the divine was made accessible, a vibrant tapestry of faith that spoke to the illiterate and literate alike. Moreover, the Church was an institution of charity and support. It cared for the poor and the sick, offering alms and solace to those in need. This aspect of religious life fostered a sense of community responsibility, encouraging the more fortunate to aid their neighbors. The Church's role in these social functions reinforced its centrality in daily life, extending beyond spiritual matters to touch on the very survival and cohesion of the community. The sound of bells also marked the canonical hours, guiding the day from matins in the pre-dawn stillness to compline as night fell. These prayers, recited by the devout and the clergy, mirrored the natural rhythms of the day, connecting earthly time to the divine. For the common person, even if not directly participating in the monastic cycle, these hours reminded them of the sacred underpinning their everyday tasks. Faith, for the medieval person, was a tapestry of rituals and routines seamlessly integrated into the fabric of life. It was not a separate sphere, but a continuous thread that ran through every moment. The Church, with its rituals and rhythms, offered a sanctuary from the uncertainties of medieval existence, a place where the individual could find solace and community within the embrace of the divine. In the quiet simplicity of their faith, medieval people found a profound connection to the mysteries of life and death, joy and suffering. Religion was the lens through which they understood their world, offering explanations and assurances that transcended the immediate and tangible. It was a structure that held life together, a gentle, persistent presence that shaped their days and, indeed, their very understanding of existence itself. In the medieval world, the law did not reside in grand buildings or in the pages of hefty tomes, as we might think of it today. Rather, it was woven into the fabric of daily life, a tapestry of customs and traditions that governed the interactions and responsibilities of the village community. The notion of law, then, was not something distant and abstract, but rather an intimate part of the landscape, much like the tilled fields or the village green. At the heart of this local governance lay the manorial court, a modest assembly that served as the nucleus of legal authority in the lives of common folk. These courts were not presided over by stern, wigged judges, but rather by the lord of the manor or his steward, a figure who might be as familiar to the villagers as any neighbor. The manorial court was a periodic gathering convened a few times a year to resolve disputes, allocate resources, and uphold the customs that had been handed down through generations. In these assemblies, justice was a matter of practicality rather than strict legality. The court dealt with an array of issues, from the allocation of common land and the resolution of boundary disputes to the regulation of local resources such as mills and ovens. The villagers themselves were often participants in these proceedings, serving as jurors or witnesses, lending their voices to a collective process of decision-making. This was governance not as an imposition from above, but as a shared endeavor, rooted in the lived experiences and mutual interests of the community. Customary law was the bedrock upon which this system rested. Unlike the written statutes that underpin modern legal systems, customary law was oral, fluid, and deeply embedded in the rhythms of rural life. It was a body of knowledge passed down through stories and precedents, a living memory of the community's shared past. Customary law was not static. It evolved over time, adapting to new circumstances and the changing needs of the village. It was a law that walked hand in hand with the people, molding itself to the contours of their lives. The manorial court was not merely a venue for resolving disputes, it also played a crucial role in maintaining social order. Attendance was often compulsory, a reminder of the communal obligations that bound the villagers together. Decisions were reached not through adversarial debate, but through consensus and negotiation, reflecting a preference for harmony over conflict. Punishments, when meted out, were typically restorative rather than punitive, aiming to mend the social fabric rather than tear it further apart. At times, the decisions of the manorial court might seem arbitrary to modern sensibilities, yet within the medieval context, they were guided by a sense of fairness as understood by the community. The court's rulings were based on the principle of equity, striving to balance the interests of individuals with the well-being of the collective. This was a world where the concept of justice was intimately linked to the notion of community, where the law was less about rights and more about responsibilities. Beyond the formal proceedings of the manorial court, customary law permeated every aspect of village life. It governed the use of common resources, such as pastures and woodlands, ensuring that these vital assets were managed sustainably for the benefit of all. It regulated relationships, setting expectations for marriage, inheritance, and the care of dependents. It provided a framework for cooperation, establishing norms for shared labor and mutual assistance. In this way, customary law acted as a silent guide, shaping behavior and resolving conflicts with an unobtrusive authority. It was a law that whispered rather than shouted, a gentle reminder of the values and expectations that underpinned village life. It was a mechanism of governance that relied not on coercion, but on the strength of communal bonds and the shared understanding of what it meant to be a good neighbor. The absence of formal institutions did not mean the absence of order. Rather, it highlighted the resourcefulness and resilience of local communities, their ability to self-regulate and adapt in the face of changing circumstances. This was a world where governance was not a distant authority, but a familiar presence, woven into the everyday interactions and shared histories of the villagers. In this system, the role of the lord or his steward was both powerful and limited. They were figures of authority, yet their power was tempered by the customs and expectations of the community. The lord's influence was contingent on his ability to uphold the social contract, to act as a fair arbiter and protector of the village's interests. His authority was not absolute, but rather a trust vested in him by the community, a responsibility to be wielded with care and respect. Thus, the governance of a medieval village was a delicate balance of authority and community, tradition and adaptation. It was a system that relied on the active participation and consent of the governed, a testament to the enduring power of collective wisdom and shared values. In this, we find a lesson in the quiet strength of ordinary lives, their capacity to create and sustain a world of order and meaning, even in the absence of grand institutions. As we reflect on this past, we are reminded that the structures of governance, no matter how modest, are deeply intertwined with the lives of those they serve. They are shaped by the needs and aspirations of the community, a reflection of the human impulse to seek order and justice amidst the complexities of life. And in this, there is a quiet continuity, a thread that links the lives of medieval villagers to our own, a reminder of the enduring power of community and the shared journey of humanity. In the medieval village, where the rhythm of daily life was dictated by the seasons and the sun, moments of diversion were not merely welcomed, they were necessary. The lives of common folk were filled with labor, a cycle of work that ebbed and flowed with the changing weather and the needs of the land. Yet, amidst this cycle, there was room for storytelling, music, and festivals, small pockets of joy that punctuated the steady drumbeat of duty and toil. Imagine yourself in a village square as the light of day yields to the softer glow of twilight. It is here, under the expansive canopy of the sky, that the community gathers. There is a sense of anticipation, a gentle hum of excitement, as people of all ages come together, drawn by the promise of stories that transport, music that uplifts, and the shared experience of celebration. Storytelling was an art, a craft honed over years, passed down through generations. Without the written word to guide them, these tales were carried in the memory, embroidered with the teller's own embellishments. Each storyteller had their own style, their own favored tales, myths of ancient heroes, legends of saints, or perhaps stories more grounded in the familiar, of local characters and bygone events. In these stories, history was not a series of dates and facts, but a living, breathing narrative where the past was molded to fit the needs of the present. The storyteller's voice was a thread weaving through the evening air, drawing listeners into worlds both distant and close. There was a certain magic in the way a skilled teller could conjure imagery, creating vivid scenes with nothing more than words. The audience, gathered closely on benches or the ground, shared in this communal journey, their imaginations kindled by the flickering firelight. Music, too, played a vital role in the fabric of medieval life. It was less about performance and more about participation. Instruments were simple, a lute, a pipe, perhaps a drum, yet in the hands of the village musician they became conduits of joy and expression. Music was both a solitary companion and a communal bond, a way to celebrate, to mourn, to mark the passage of time. Consider the sound of a flute, its clear notes rising into the evening sky, or the rhythmic beat of a drum punctuating the laughter and chatter of the crowd. Songs were often familiar, their melodies and lyrics known by heart, allowing everyone to join in. These were not the grand compositions of courtly minstrels, but rather the folk songs that spoke to the shared experiences of rural life. The sowing of seeds, the harvest, the changing of the seasons. Festivals, often tied to the agricultural calendar or religious observances, provided a more structured form of entertainment and a break from the daily grind. These were times when work paused, and the village came together in a collective celebration of life's bounty and blessings. Seasonal festivals marked the turning of the year, each with its own customs and rituals. During harvest festivals, for example, the air was filled with a palpable sense of relief and gratitude. The hard work of reaping, threshing, and storing the year's yield was behind them, and now was the time to give thanks. There might be a feast, with tables laden with the fruits of their labor, and perhaps games or competitions to test strength and skill. The community danced, their feet moving in familiar patterns, the music a joyful backdrop to their celebration. In the winter, when the nights were long and the days cold, festivals provided warmth and light. Fires blazed, casting a welcoming glow against the encroaching darkness. And stories and songs took on a special significance, a reminder of the endurance of spirit in the face of the season's challenges. The year's end was a time for reflection, for honoring those who had passed and looking forward to the promise of the new year. These moments of storytelling, music, and festival were more than mere distractions. They were essential threads in the tapestry of medieval life. They offered not only a respite from labor, but a means of reinforcing community ties, of passing down knowledge and tradition, of celebrating the human connection to the land and to one another. In them, the ordinary became extraordinary, and the hardships of daily life were softened by the shared experience of joy and wonder. So, as we reflect on the lives of those who lived without the written record, let us remember these moments of levity and connection. They remind us that even in times of simplicity and challenge, the human spirit finds ways to express itself, to find joy and meaning in the everyday. In the stories told, the songs sung, and the festivals celebrated, the people of medieval Britain found a rhythm of life that resonated deeply, echoing across the centuries to remind us of our shared humanity. As the sun climbed to its zenith, casting a warm, golden light over the fields and cottages, the pace of labor naturally began to ebb. The midday period, a gentle intermission in the symphony of the day, was dictated by the immutable rhythm of daylight rather than by the mechanical ticking of a clock. It was a time when shadows shortened and the relentless work of the morning gave way to a moment of respite. In the medieval landscape, the sun was the great conductor, orchestrating the lives of those who toiled beneath it. When it reached its highest point, even the most diligent hands would pause. There were no whistles or factory bells to signal a break, only the quiet mutual understanding that the earth, too, seemed to take a breath. This was a time for rest, for nourishment, and for reflection, a pause not forced by fatigue alone, but by the natural order of things. Meals, simple yet vital, punctuated the day like comforting commas in the sentence of life. The midday meal, often called dinner in those times, was not a lavish affair. It was a practical pause, an opportunity to replenish both body and spirit. The fare was humble, a slice of dark, coarse bread, a bowl of pottage, perhaps a piece of cheese if fortune smiled. Yet in its simplicity lay a certain contentment, a quiet satisfaction derived from the act of sharing sustenance with others. The communal aspect of these meals cannot be overstated. Families, neighbors, and fellow laborers gathered together, their shared labor creating bonds as strong as the food was nourishing. Conversations flowed as freely as the ale, weaving a tapestry of stories and laughter that underscored the shared human experience. In these moments, the burden of the individual gave way to the strength of the collective, a testament to the enduring power of community. As the sun journeyed across the sky, its rays grew more languid, and with them, the workers' movements slowed. This was a time when the body naturally sought solace in rest, responding to the gentle lullaby of the afternoon light. Fatigue was not an adversary to be battled, but a companion to be acknowledged and respected. It was a reminder that, like the fields they tended, humans too needed to lie fallow occasionally to gather strength for the hours yet to come. Seasonal variations added another layer of complexity to this daily rhythm. In the heat of summer, the sun lingered longer, casting its warmth over the land and extending the hours of toil. Yet, inevitably, the longer days demanded more frequent pauses, as the body sought to regulate its own internal temperature against the sun's unwavering gaze. In winter, the midday rest was a cherished reprieve from the biting cold, a moment to gather around a flickering hearth and share in the warmth of companionship. The agricultural calendar, with its cycles of planting and harvest, also played a role in determining the pace of work. During the frenetic activity of harvest time, the midday rest became even more crucial, a brief respite in the midst of the season's heightened demands. Conversely, in the quieter months when the fields lay dormant beneath a blanket of frost, the midday rest was more leisurely, affording time for contemplation and the mending of tools. While the midday break was a universal experience, its duration was not rigidly defined. It varied according to the needs of the day and the whims of nature. Some days it was merely a brief interlude. On others, it stretched luxuriously, allowing time for a brief nap or the indulgence of a favorite pastime. This flexibility was a testament to the adaptability of those who lived by the land, their lives as fluid as the seasons themselves. It is tempting to romanticize this period of rest, to view it through the rose-tinted lens of nostalgia. Yet, it is important to recognize the realities that lay beneath. The midday rest was not a luxury, but a necessity. It was a response to the physical demands of manual labor, a way to preserve one's strength for the tasks that lay ahead. It was a time to repair and maintain both tools and spirits, ensuring that the delicate balance of life could be sustained. As the afternoon drew on and the shadows began to lengthen once more, the lull gave way to renewed activity. The sun, now on its downward path, signaled the return to work. Refreshed by their meal and the camaraderie shared, the workers rose with a quiet resolve, ready to face the challenges of the afternoon with renewed vigor. The cycle of labor and rest, a dance as old as time itself, continued unabated, forming the steady heartbeat of medieval life. In contemplating this rhythm, we find a lesson in patience and acceptance. The medieval midday rest, shaped by the sun's arc and the demands of the land, offers us a glimpse into a world where time was measured not by minutes and hours, but by the more subtle cues of nature. It invites us to consider the value of embracing the natural ebb and flow of life, to find peace in the pauses, and to cherish the moments of rest that punctuate our own busy days. In the gentle ebb and flow of medieval life, the specter of illness and injury was a constant presence, shaping lives with an unpredictability that was both feared and accepted. In an age where medical knowledge was limited and the mysteries of the body largely unexplored, the common person navigated health challenges with a blend of resilience, tradition, and communal support. The ailments that plagued medieval communities were often mundane, yet could swiftly become perilous. Common colds, fevers, and digestive troubles were frequent visitors, their severity varying by season and circumstance. Infections, easily acquired through minor cuts or unclean conditions, could escalate with alarming speed. Yet these afflictions were met with a pragmatic acceptance as people continued their daily routines, managing discomfort with what resources they had. In this world, the remedies for illness were as much about tradition and faith as they were about efficacy. The knowledge of herbs and plants was passed down through generations, forming a practical pharmacopoeia that was both local and deeply rooted in the rhythms of the natural world. Elderflower, for instance, was brewed into teas and tinctures to combat fever, while garlic was used both as a flavoring and a medicinal agent, believed to ward off infections and malevolent spirits alike. Local wise women or healers, often the stewards of such knowledge, played a crucial role in village health. They combined their understanding of herbs with an intuition honed by experience, offering remedies that were grounded in both observation and the remnants of ancient lore. The line between medicine and magic was thin, and treatments were frequently accompanied by prayers or charms, a testament to the deeply intertwined nature of belief and healing. The body was seen as a microcosm of the universe, a delicate balance of humors, blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile, that needed careful management. This humoral theory, inherited from classical antiquity, guided much of medieval medical thought. Illness was often attributed to an imbalance of these humors, and treatment sought to restore harmony through diet, purgatives, or bloodletting. While modern eyes might view these practices with skepticism, they represented a sincere attempt to understand and influence the body's workings. Injuries, whether sustained in the fields or at home, were a part of daily life. The tools used in agriculture and crafts were simple yet effective, but they also carried risks. A misplaced blow from a hoe or a slip of a knife could lead to wounds that, without proper care, might fester. In such cases, cleanliness was paramount, though in an era before germ theory, the concept of contagion was not fully understood. Nevertheless, the practical act of washing a wound with clean water or applying a poultice of honey or herbs could make a significant difference. For more serious injuries, the community's approach was often one of collective concern. Neighbors might gather to assist the afflicted, offering both physical help and moral support. This sense of communal care was a vital aspect of survival, fostering bonds that were as much a remedy for the spirit as for the body. In times of epidemic, when illness swept through villages with indiscriminate force, these communities were tested in profound ways. The Black Death, which decimated Europe's population in the 14th century, left a mark on the collective consciousness that endured for generations. Such events highlighted the fragility of life and the limits of human control, yet they also inspired a deep-seated resilience and a renewed appreciation for health and stability. Despite the challenges posed by illness and injury, medieval people did not live in constant fear. Rather, they embraced a practical stoicism, viewing health as a balance to be maintained through careful living and adherence to communal and spiritual practices. The rhythms of work and rest, feast and fast were seen as integral to maintaining this balance, reinforcing the idea that health was a shared responsibility and a communal endeavor. In reflecting on this aspect of medieval life, we find a landscape where uncertainty was a constant companion, yet one met with humanity's enduring strengths, adaptability, community, and a faith in both the seen and unseen. It is a reminder that while our understanding of the body and its ailments has grown, the core of human experience remains remarkably consistent. As we consider the past, we are gently reminded of our own vulnerabilities and the quiet courage required to face them. In the quiet embrace of a medieval village, family life was a tapestry woven from necessity and tradition, where each thread played its part in the fabric of daily existence. Here, family was not merely a sentimental construct, but a fundamental unit of survival and economic stability. The notion of marriage, as we understand it today, was interwoven with economic necessity and the continuation of family lines. It was less of a romantic endeavor and more of a practical alliance, a partnership formed to secure resources and ensure the future of the household. Marriage, in this context, was often arranged by parents, with considerations of land, livestock, and social standing at the forefront. It was a negotiation, a transaction that ensured mutual benefit and the pooling of resources. While love was not absent, it was often secondary to these practical concerns. The union of two individuals was meant to fortify both families, offering a promise of shared labor and increased productivity. The dowry, a contribution from the bride's family, was a vital component of this agreement, serving as both an economic buffer and a symbol of goodwill. Within the household, roles were clearly delineated, each member contributing to the communal effort required for sustenance. The medieval home was a hive of activity, with tasks assigned according to age, gender, and ability. Men were primarily responsible for agricultural work and heavy labor, while women managed domestic duties, which included cooking, cleaning, and tending to the garden and livestock. Yet, these roles were not rigid. Necessity often blurred the lines, requiring everyone to adapt and assist as needed. Children, from a tender age, were integrated into this rhythm of work and responsibility. They were not merely seen as dependents, but as active contributors to the family's welfare. Boys might accompany their fathers to the fields, learning the intricacies of farming, while girls often stayed close to their mothers, acquiring the skills necessary to manage a household. Through observation and participation, children absorbed the knowledge that would one day guide them in their own adult lives. Play existed, of course, but it was often entwined with practical tasks, such as herding animals or gathering firewood. The family structure was typically extended, with multiple generations residing under one roof, or at least in close proximity. Grandparents, parents, and children shared the same space, their lives intertwined with shared responsibilities and communal living. This arrangement provided security and support, with each generation relying on the others for assistance and care. Elders, with their wealth of experience, played a crucial role in the upbringing of children, imparting wisdom and ensuring the continuity of traditions. Marriage, therefore, was not only about the union of two individuals, but also about the merging of families. This alliance forged new bonds and reinforced existing ones, creating a network of support that was vital in a world where survival was precarious and resources were scarce. The communal nature of medieval life meant that households were seldom isolated. Neighbors and extended family were a constant presence, offering help in times of need and sharing in both burdens and joys. Despite our modern notions of individuality and personal space, medieval family life was characterized by a collective ethos. Privacy was a luxury few could afford. Homes were small, often consisting of a single room that served as kitchen, dining room, and bedroom. Personal belongings were minimal, and the concept of a personal sanctuary was virtually non-existent. Life was lived in close quarters, with little opportunity for solitude. This closeness fostered a deep sense of interdependence, a shared existence where the actions of one impacted all. Marriage also served as a means of consolidating economic resources. The pooling of land and livestock through marital unions was a strategic move that could elevate a family's status and ensure its prosperity. This pragmatic approach extended to the selection of a spouse, where suitability was judged not only on personal attributes, but also on the potential for economic gain. The medieval marriage market was a complex web of negotiations and alliances, with parents and community leaders playing pivotal roles in the matchmaking process. In this world, the concept of romantic love, while not absent, was often overshadowed by the pressing demands of survival. Couples grew to know and care for each other through shared experiences and mutual reliance. The bond between husband and wife was forged in the crucible of daily life, where cooperation and compromise were essential. Love, when it blossomed, was a gradual unfolding, nurtured by the shared rhythms of work and family life. The medieval household, therefore, was a microcosm of the wider community, reflecting the social and economic dynamics of the time. It was a place where the personal and the communal were inextricably linked, where individual aspirations were tempered by the needs of the group. In this setting, family life was both a refuge and a responsibility, a source of comfort and a framework for survival. As we reflect on these structures, we are reminded of the resilience and adaptability of human beings who, in every era, have navigated the complexities of family life in ways that reflect their unique circumstances. The medieval family may seem distant to us now, yet its essence, the shared effort, the interdependence, the continuity of life, resonates across the centuries, inviting us to consider the enduring nature of human connection and the myriad forms it has taken throughout history. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the fields and cottages, the rhythm of the medieval village subtly shifted. The day's labors, intense yet familiar, gradually wound down. Evening was a time of transition, a gentle unwinding from the toil and tasks that had consumed the daylight hours. Within the humble confines of their homes, families turned their attention to the comforting rituals of the evening. The preparation of the evening meal was a central activity, a task that brought a sense of completion to the day. In the dimming light, the hearth became the heart of the home, its warm glow a beacon of both sustenance and solace. The fire, tended with care, was not merely a source of heat. It was a vital presence around which life gathered and stories unfolded. Women, often with the help of children, tended to the preparation of the meal, utilizing the modest array of ingredients available to them. In these times, simplicity was both a necessity and a virtue. The evening meal, much like breakfast and dinner, commonly featured bread as its staple. This bread, often baked in communal ovens earlier in the day, was accompanied by a variety of potages, a hearty mixture of whatever vegetables, grains, and occasionally bits of meat were at hand. The ingredients varied with the seasons, reflecting the close connection between the villagers and the land they tilled. Fresh herbs, gathered from small kitchen gardens or the wild, added flavor and variety to these humble dishes. As the meal cooked slowly over the fire, the scents mingling with the earthy aroma of the thatched roof, there was time for other tasks. The men, having returned from their work in the fields or workshops, often turned to the maintenance of their tools. In these simple acts of repair and upkeep, there was a quiet expertise, a generational knowledge passed down through observation and practice. Tools, whether for farming, carpentry, or weaving, were precious and required careful maintenance. A sharp blade, a well-honed edge, could mean the difference between a fruitful harvest and a struggle for survival. In the flickering firelight, conversation flowed easily, weaving through the evening like the gentle smoke that rose from the hearth. These conversations were a tapestry of shared experiences, news, and stories, a means of reinforcing the bonds of community and family. Talk of the day's events, plans for the morrow, and the ever-present concerns of weather and crops were common threads. Yet there was also room for tales of old, stories passed down, which carried with them the wisdom and wonder of the ages. Children, often seated on the floor or perched on stools, listened with wide eyes, absorbing the cadence and content of these familial narratives. Through these stories, they learned not just the lore of their ancestors, but also the values and expectations of their own lives to come. The act of storytelling, though informal, was an essential part of their education, shaping their understanding of the world and their place within it. As the meal was finally served, there was a moment of quiet gratitude. Whether a simple blessing or a silent nod of appreciation, this pause before eating was a shared acknowledgement of the work it took to bring food to the table. The meal itself, though plain, was nourishing, its simplicity a comfort in a world where certainty was often in short supply. Families ate together, sharing not just food but companionship, the day's weariness softened by the warmth of togetherness. After the meal, there was still work to be done, but it was of a gentler kind. The fire required tending, the embers coaxed into lasting through the night. Tools were put away carefully, their edges oiled and sharpened, ready for the next day's demands. Women often turned to the tasks of spinning or mending, their hands busy even as their minds relaxed into the familiar patterns of these evening routines. The quiet murmur of conversation continued, interspersed with moments of silence as the fire crackled softly. These were moments of reflection, of connection, where the day's labors could be viewed with the calm perspective that distance and dusk allowed. In these spaces, the villagers found a measure of peace, a pause in the relentless cycle of work and rest. As the evening wore on, the firelight played upon the walls, casting shifting patterns that echoed the rhythm of the day's ending. The village, enveloped by the growing darkness, settled into a tranquility that was both collective and individual. Each family, in their own home, partook of this shared experience, their lives intertwined with the land and each other, anchored by the enduring rituals of the evening. In this quietude, there was a recognition of the constancy of these routines, a recognition that brought with it a sense of belonging. The evening, though unremarkable in its tasks, was a time of renewal, a gentle closing of the day that prepared the mind and body for the rest and restoration of the night to come. As the fire's glow dimmed and the chill of night crept in, the villagers turned to their beds, the promise of sleep, a welcome embrace after the day's endeavors. Thus, the evening routines of a medieval village, simple and unassuming, wove themselves into the fabric of life, a testament to the enduring nature of human resilience and community. In these moments, the ordinary found its place within the extraordinary tapestry of history, a reminder that even the most commonplace of days carries with it the weight and wonder of the ages. As the sun dips below the horizon, the medieval village is gradually enveloped in a gentle, enfolding darkness. The transition from day to night is a slow, deliberate change, one that is felt as much as seen. There are no streetlights to illuminate the way, no glow from modern conveniences to dilute the rich, enveloping blackness. Instead, the village is lit only by the soft glow of hearth fires and the flickering flames of candles and oil lamps, each small light a beacon against the deepening night. The air grows cooler as the heat of the day dissipates, and with it comes an increased awareness of sound. In the absence of visual distractions, the ear becomes more attuned to the subtle symphony of the evening. The gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze, the distant murmur of a brook, and the occasional call of a night bird form a backdrop to the human activity that persists despite the fading light. As darkness settles, the village takes on a new sense of intimacy. The boundaries of the world shrink, defined by the glow of individual hearths. Families gather around the fire, the heart of their home, where warmth and light ward off the chill and shadow. Here, the evening meal is prepared and shared, a simple yet vital ritual that nourishes both body and spirit. The muted conversations and quiet laughter remind us that even as the world outside recedes, life within these walls continues, rich with connection and community. The village animals, too, respond to the changing light. Cows and sheep have been brought in from the fields to their shelter, where they settle with soft, contented sounds. Chickens roost, their gentle clucks and murmurs a comforting reminder of their presence. These creatures, familiar and integral to daily life, add to the nightly chorus, their rhythms intertwined with those of their human caretakers. As the night deepens, the wind carries with it a different quality. No longer tempered by the warmth of the day, it whispers through the village with a cool insistence. It rustles the thatch on the roofs and sighs through the gaps in the walls, creating a soundscape that is both soothing and slightly eerie. This is a time for reflection, for quiet contemplation as the wind weaves its way through the village, gently reminding its inhabitants of nature's omnipresence. Within the home, light is precious and carefully managed. Candles made from tallow or beeswax are conserved, their use deliberate and mindful. The flickering flame casts long shadows that dance upon the walls, creating an ever-shifting tapestry of light and dark. This interplay is a reminder of the transient nature of life itself, echoing the cycles of day and night, work and rest. As the evening progresses, the village gradually quiets. Conversations soften and drift into murmurs, tasks are completed, and the pace of life slows. The shared labor of the day gives way to shared stories, the oral tradition passed from generation to generation. These tales, whether of local happenings or fantastical adventures, serve to entertain and educate, to bind the community together with laughter and shared understanding. Children, lulled by the warmth and the gentle rhythm of voices, begin to drift into sleep, their small forms nestled close to the fire or bundled together in the family bed. Their dreams, like the stories told, are woven with the fabric of their world. An existence marked by simplicity, yet rich in experience and imagination. Outside, the night continues its quiet vigil. The stars, unobscured by the artificial lights of a future yet to come, spatter the sky with brilliance, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the smallness of the self within it. The moon, in its various phases, casts its own ethereal glow, illuminating the village with a light that is both ancient and ever-renewing. In this nightscape, the villagers find a certain peace, an acceptance of the rhythms of nature and the cycles of their own lives. They are part of a continuum, a web of connections that stretches across time and space. The simplicity of their surroundings, the immediacy of their experiences, offer a kind of clarity that is often lost in the complexities of more modern times. As the night deepens further and the village settles into rest, the sounds of the day fade into memory, replaced by the quiet breathing of sleep and the occasional stirrings of nocturnal creatures. The world outside is one of shadows and secrets, yet within each home there is a sense of safety and comfort, a return to the familiar embrace of the night. In this quiet, reflective space, the mind is free to wander, to explore the depths of thought and memory. It is a time for dreams, for the subconscious to weave its own narratives, drawing from the rich tapestry of daily life. Here, in the gentle embrace of night, the villagers find rest and renewal, ready to greet the coming day with its own set of challenges and joys. Thus, nightfall in a medieval village is more than a mere absence of light. It is a time of transition and transformation, a space where the boundaries between the known and the unknown blur, and where the simple act of being becomes an experience of profound connection. As the village sleeps, it dreams of past and future, of the endless cycle of life that continues quietly beneath the stars. In the quiet hours of a medieval night, when the day's labor had finally drawn to a close, and the village rested beneath the vast expanse of a star-speckled sky, the concept of sleep took on a shape that might seem unfamiliar to us today. This was a time when the artificial glow of electric lights did not punctuate the darkness, and the natural rhythm of day and night dictated the patterns of rest. As we gently step into the sleeping quarters of a medieval household, we find a communal space, often shared by family members of all ages. The modest homes, sometimes with just a single room serving multiple purposes, offered little in the way of privacy. Beds, if present, were simple constructions, made from wooden frames and topped with straw-filled mattresses. For many, though, the floor sufficed, perhaps with a layer of hay or a simple woolen blanket to soften the hardness of the ground. The notion of a single, unbroken night of sleep was not the norm. Instead, people experienced what we now refer to as segmented or biphasic sleep. This pattern, dictated by the natural ebb and flow of darkness and light, involved two distinct periods of rest. After retiring for the night, often shortly after dusk, individuals would sleep for several hours, experiencing what was known as the first sleep. This initial slumber was followed by a waking period, typically around midnight, which was a time for quiet reflection, prayer, or even socializing within the household. This interlude, sometimes lasting an hour or more, provided an opportunity for introspection or quiet activities. Some might rise to tend to the fire, ensuring it continued to burn gently through the night, casting a warm, flickering glow across the room. Others might use this time for contemplation or to discuss the day with family members, exchanging whispered hopes and worries for the future. It was a pause that allowed the mind to wander freely, unburdened by the day's demands. The second sleep would then ensue, carrying the household through to the early hours of the morning, when the first light of dawn began to seep through the cracks in the thatch. This segmented sleep pattern was well suited to the medieval lifestyle, aligning with the natural cycles of the environment and the absence of artificial light sources that now extend our waking hours far beyond their natural limits. The seasonal variation in daylight also played a significant role in the shape of sleep. During the long, harsh winters, when nights stretched interminably, the periods of rest and wakefulness adjusted accordingly. The extended darkness invited lengthier slumbers, while the brief intermissions provided a necessary respite from the chill, a time for families to draw close, sharing warmth and stories in the dim glow of a central hearth. In contrast, the shorter nights of summer, punctuated by the vibrant activity of the agricultural calendar, called for less sleep and more waking hours to attend to the demands of the land. The rhythms of nature, celebrated and observed with an implicit understanding, guided these changes, weaving them seamlessly into the fabric of daily life. This approach to sleep, with its natural pauses and reflections, offers a gentle reminder of how our ancestors were deeply attuned to the world around them. Today, the pressures of modern life often push us towards a consolidated sleeping pattern, with artificial lights and screens extending our days well into what would once have been restful hours. Yet, there is a quiet wisdom in the medieval way, an acceptance of the night as a time not just for rest, but for contemplation and connection. As we lie in our beds, perhaps far removed from the simple arrangements of a medieval home, we might consider the value of these intervals of wakefulness. They provide not a disruption, but a space for thoughts to meander, for creativity to unfurl in the stillness, and for a gentle reconnection with those who share our space, even if only for a whispered word or a silent shared moment. In the soft embrace of night, as the world around us sleeps, we too can find solace in these quiet hours. Perhaps the key lies in embracing the natural rhythms that still pulse quietly beneath the surface of our modern lives, a reminder that rest is not merely the absence of activity, but a vital part of our existence, woven through with the threads of history and the simplicity of ordinary days. The rhythm of medieval life was one of balance between hardship and routine, a delicate dance that was both demanding and familiar. For the common person, life was a tapestry woven with threads of labor, limited choice, and a profound understanding of the world through the lens of daily experiences. In our quiet consideration of what was hard and what was normal, we find a landscape marked by the physical demands of survival and the acceptance of life's constraints. The physicality of medieval life was undeniable. Each day unfolded as a series of tasks that required strength and endurance. From tilling the soil to tending livestock, these were not merely chores, but essential acts of survival. The land demanded respect and hard work, and in return, it offered sustenance. The tools of the trade were simple, yet effective, designed for functionality rather than ease. A wooden plow, a sturdy hoe, these were extensions of the farmer's body, requiring skill and effort in equal measure. For many, the sun dictated the rhythm of the day, rising and setting upon a world that moved to the beat of the seasons. During the long summer days, work extended into the late evening, the light holding back the night and allowing every available moment to be spent in productivity. In winter, the shortening days brought a different kind of challenge, where the tasks of the household became paramount and the struggle against the cold was ever present. The strain was not limited to the fields. Craftspeople bent over their workbenches, hands calloused from hours spent shaping wood or metal, weaving cloth, or crafting everyday items. Each trade required a particular set of skills, honed through years of practice and passed down through generations. There was a quiet expertise in their work, a mastery that came from repetition and dedication. Yet, with all this physical demand, there was an acceptance of the limitations imposed by their world, a recognition that some things were simply beyond their control. Choices were narrow, dictated by tradition, necessity, and the natural order. For most, the concept of choice, as we understand it today, was foreign. Opportunities were defined by one's birth, family, and the community to which they belonged. The idea of forging a new path was largely reserved for the few who dared to dream beyond the boundaries of their given lot. However, within these constraints, there was a sense of order and predictability. Life's cyclical nature offered a kind of security, a reassurance that what had been would be again. The familiarity of routine was a comfort, a balm against the uncertainties of life. Knowledge passed down through generations provided the framework for understanding the world, a shared wisdom that was both practical and profound. While the modern observer might see only hardship in this existence, it is important to remember that what was hard was also normal. The people of medieval Britain did not view their lives through a lens of suffering, but rather through one of endurance and resilience. Their world was one where hardship and ease were not opposing forces, but parts of a whole, each giving context to the other. In considering their lives, we must resist the temptation to romanticize or vilify. Instead, we see a people who lived with the land, who understood its rhythms and respected its power. They were individuals who knew the value of community and the strength found in shared labor. The hardships they faced were met with a communal spirit, a reliance on one another that fostered deep bonds and collective resilience. As we reflect on the medieval experience, we are reminded that while the specifics of our lives have changed dramatically, the essence of human experience remains constant. The balance of hardship and normality, the interplay of choice and limitation, are threads that continue to weave through the fabric of our existence. The story of the common person in medieval Britain is a reminder of the enduring nature of humanity's resilience, a testament to the strength found in the everyday. It invites us to view our own lives with a similar perspective, acknowledging that what may seem hard in the moment can often become the normal with time and acceptance. In the quiet corners of our modern lives, echoes of the medieval past linger, weaving subtle threads through the tapestry of our daily existence. Those centuries have passed, transforming the world in countless ways. Some rhythms remain unexpectedly familiar. The lives of common medieval folk, though seemingly distant, offer reflections that shimmer in the routines we continue today. Imagine, if you will, the start of a day. The sun rises, and with it, the world stirs into motion. In medieval times, dawn signaled a natural awakening, a gentle nudge rather than the shrill summons of an alarm clock. Today, many of us still find ourselves drawn to the rhythm of the sun, craving the early light to guide us into the day. Whether it is the soft glow of morning through a curtain or the quiet of a city before it wakes, there remains a shared appreciation for those tranquil moments that begin with nature's own timekeeper. In both medieval and modern eras, the heart of daily life often beats in the home. While our homes now are crafted with materials unimagined in the past, the essence of what they provide remains: shelter, warmth, and a place for gathering. Then, as now, the home was a nexus of activity and comfort, where family and community life intertwined. The medieval hearth with its central fire may have evolved into our modern kitchens, yet both serve as spaces for nourishment and connection. The workday, too, offers parallels. Medieval laborers knew the demands of the land, responding to the seasons and the cycles of growth and harvest. In our contemporary world, while many jobs have shifted from physical toil to mental exertion, the structure of our work, its ebb and flow, often mirrors the natural patterns of the past. There is something timeless in the way we organize our efforts, balancing periods of intense activity with moments of rest and reflection, a dance as old as humanity itself. Community reliance, a cornerstone of medieval life, finds its counterpart in today's networks of support, whether familial, social, or professional. In a world before mass communication and rapid transit, people depended heavily on those nearby, fostering a sense of mutual obligation and shared experience. Today, while technology connects us globally, the essence of community, the need for human connection and shared understanding, persists in neighborhoods, workplaces, and through digital gatherings that bridge distance. The medieval calendar was punctuated by communal events, festivals, and religious observances that drew people together in celebration and reflection. While our modern calendars might look different, marked by public holidays, cultural festivals, and personal milestones, the underlying purpose remains to pause, to gather, and to celebrate the passage of time together. These shared moments, whether medieval feasts or modern holiday gatherings, reinforce the bonds that tie us to one another. Consider, too, the way we navigate uncertainty and change. Medieval life was fraught with unpredictability. Harvests could fail, illness could strike, and fortunes could shift with the seasons. Yet, in the face of such unpredictability, people found resilience in routine and community. Our modern lives, despite advancements in science and technology, still encounter uncertainties, and we too find solace in the predictable comforts of daily life and the support of those around us. Even in leisure, we find echoes of the past. Medieval people enjoyed storytelling, music, and the simple pleasures of time spent with others. Today, as we gather around screens or immerse ourselves in books and music, the core desire to be entertained and to share stories remains unchanged. The mediums may have evolved, but the joy of a good tale or a shared laugh continues to bind us across time. In reflecting on these parallels, it becomes clear that while our tools and circumstances have transformed, the fundamental aspects of life, work, community, celebration, and resilience remain steadfast. The lives of medieval commoners, though marked by hardships and limitations, were also rich with experiences that resonate with our own. There is a quiet continuity that flows through the ages, a reminder that in many ways we are not so different from those who walked the land before us. As we navigate our own paths, it is worth considering the lessons embedded in these echoes of the past. The simplicity of a life guided by natural rhythms, the strength found in community ties, and the resilience in the face of uncertainty are all threads worth weaving into the fabric of modern life. By recognizing these connections, we can enrich our understanding of both the past and the present, finding comfort in the knowledge that even as the world changes, some things remain timeless. In the vast tapestry of history, it is not the grand events that hold the fabric together, but rather the countless threads of ordinary lives woven through time with quiet diligence. As we draw to a close on our exploration of medieval Britain, the notion of continuity in the lives of its common folk remains a steady beacon, casting light on the often overlooked essence of humanity. Picture, if you will, the daily cadence of a medieval village, filled with the sounds of life unfolding through the rhythmic beating of time. The clatter of tools against stone, the rustle of leaves swept by a gentle breeze, and the soft, harmonious murmurs of conversation, all blending seamlessly into a backdrop of enduring resilience. These sounds, though seemingly mundane, compose a symphony that echoes through the ages, binding the past to the present in an unbroken chain. The life of an ordinary person in medieval Britain was one of repetition, yet within this repetition lay a profound depth of meaning. Each day began with the first light of dawn, as the sun cast its golden hues across the landscape, awakening both land and people. This was a routine, yet it was also a daily renewal, a chance to engage once more in the cycle of life that had sustained generations before. Consider the simple act of preparing a meal, the grinding of grain, the kneading of dough, and the simmering of pottage over a hearth. These were acts performed countless times, yet each carried with it the essence of survival, care, and community. The sharing of food was not merely a necessity, it was a ritual that reinforced bonds and nourished the spirit as much as the body. In the fields, hands toiled with unwavering dedication, guided by knowledge passed down through spoken word and observed practice. The soil, tilled by generations, bore witness to seasons of change, yet remained constant in its promise of sustenance. This connection to the land was not just physical, it was a spiritual tether, anchoring people to a sense of place and purpose. As the day ebbed into night, the hearth's glow provided warmth and solace, a gathering point for family and neighbors alike. Stories were exchanged, tales both real and imagined, weaving a narrative that transcended individual lives. These stories, spoken into the flickering shadows, were threads in a communal tapestry, preserving history through memory and imagination. It is in these moments of shared experience that we find the continuity of ordinary lives. The routine tasks and simple pleasures of medieval existence were not insignificant. They were the building blocks of history. Each life, though unrecorded in grand annals, contributed to the collective human story, enriching it with every breath, every heartbeat. Reflecting on this, we are reminded that the past is not a distant land, but a mirror reflecting our own lives. The challenges faced, the joys celebrated, and the bonds formed by medieval people are not so different from our own. We, too, rise with the sun, toil through our days, and find comfort in the company of others. Our lives, though unique in detail, share the same fundamental rhythms that have persisted through time. The continuity of ordinary lives is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It is a gentle reminder that while history may celebrate the extraordinary, it is the ordinary that forms its foundation. In the quiet persistence of daily life, meaning accumulates, shaping the world in ways that are subtle yet profound. As we draw this narrative to a close, let us hold in our minds the image of a medieval village, its people going about their daily routines with a quiet dignity. In their lives, we see a reflection of our own, a connection that transcends time and reminds us of the enduring nature of human existence. It is here, in the continuity of ordinary lives, that we find the true essence of history, a story told not through grand events, but through the gentle, steadfast rhythm of everyday life.